Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. We've got a very special guest here. We've got Christian. Before we get in there, I'll just get people to check in and say, can you hear us? Let us know where you're coming in from. Type in the chat. Hello, is anyone there?
The endless void. I just hope.
The gap. You put yourself out into the world, and sometimes it loves you, and other times you just get left out to dry. Um, Come on, people, check in. Where are we coming in from? Hello, Alex. Good to see you. Welcome. UK, beautiful, love it. Good start. Hello, Murat. Houston, Australia, big coming in at 2:30 a.m. for me. I'm in Adelaide. I'm not sure where you are, big. I think you're Melbourne from memory. Puerto Rico, San Fran, another Houston. The Houstons are strong. All right. Bullish on Lovable, good choice. Very good choice. India, beautiful. I'm going to hand it over to Christian, who's running the show here. Thanks for joining us. I was just having a chat backstage, and Christian's the reason I'm in this. Christian is a pillar of the community for the no codes that are out there, vibes, if that's what you want to call it. But I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Christian. If I didn't come across his channel and discover this world as it's evolving, Christian's all in on it. And as I said, he's the reason I'm even in here at all. So thanks, Christian. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, that's so humbling to hear that. I so appreciate it, and I didn't expect that I would get this kind of a response when got started. The goal was just to help non-technical people, usually entrepreneurs, do things they believed themselves incapable of, and here we are, AI coding, lovable, all the good stuff, and so I'm super excited to be able to have a really casual and in-depth sort of conversation around kind of go to market today. Super
Awesome.
excited.
Awesome. Well, let me bring up your screen if you want. I know you've got a presentation ready to go.
Oh, and 1,000 tabs because everyone who's here is a shiny object syndrome lover. So they probably have multiple windows, thousands of tabs open as we speak. I don't know if we can see the screen anymore like this.
Oh, yes. Let me.
I
How's
believe we
that?
are. There you go. Yeah, I think that's better. Or maybe even where it's full screen with the presentation and then me and you under it. Let's see how that
Yes.
looks.
It's,
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Now it seems
beautiful.
like the Lovable is the name of the browser. Look at that perfect positioning right there.
Oh,
Excellent.
yeah. Well done.
Yeah, my friends, thank you so much. So should I just get started?
Get into it. Yeah, I'll drop into the background, let you run the show, and I'll monitor the chat. We'll bring some questions up for people as we go along. Enjoy the show, everyone. Thank you.
Love it. Yeah. Um, so first of all, what's up, everyone, and welcome to this presentation. You see, I'm putting on my presentation voice right now. I'm going to be talking a little bit about myself, but more importantly, we have now built a product. If everything has gone well for you, you have a product, and you're about to go to market. And I'll tell you one thing about go to market is that build it and they will come is not a strategy, my friends. It is a prayer. These are the wise words of Steve Blank. He's like one of the OGs in building startups, came up with a customer development framework and is just a complete OG in the space. And it's true. A lot of people just think, hey, I'm going to build this awesome product and then they will come. And it couldn't be further away from the truth. Here's another quote from a smart guy. He is not a surfer. His name is Justin Kan, and he is the founder and CEO of Twitch. He sold his company for $1 billion to Amazon. And he has this quote, which I love. First-time founders are obsessed with product. Second-time founders are obsessed with distribution. And that means that, yes, my friends, I'm sorry to break it to you. You've now built it, hopefully, and it is time to do the other scary thing, which is to actually get it out there and launch it in the market. So in this presentation, I want to cover a couple of important things for you, and I will be answering questions as we go along. But ultimately, I want to talk about the difference between early stage and later stage go to market or getting customers. I want to talk about different channels and how you should select the channels that you're going to be going after customers with. I also want to talk about the channels that are probably going to be the best channels to go with early stage. And then we'll start improvising. We're going to build it live. Um, and so, yeah, I'm super excited every time I give this presentation. But for some of you, you're like, who the hell is this guy? So let's just jump into a little intro here. I'm Christian Peverelli. I have been building startups for about 15 years. I'm in the process right now of building my fourth startup. I've raised capital for 2 of those, but probably more important for you, I was the director of a startup accelerator here in Los Angeles, where I trained more than 100 founders who went on to raise more than $50 million in funding and got into accelerators like Y Combinator, Techstars, 500 Startups, etc. So, yeah, and throughout this process, we basically trained founders for 6 weeks, every 6 months, 10 founders specifically. And then they would go on stage at Google and present in front of 100 to 150 investors. This is us at Demo Day. I'm right here. And it was actually through this process that I realized that I needed to build a company. So that's when I built wearenocode. You see, there was a big frustration that I had, and let me go back here. It was that most people who were applying for this program, so thousands of founders, were basically, I just saw that they were stuck with no product or bad products and no customers. And it's because they didn't have technical skills on one side and because they didn't know exactly how to go to market. And so these are the things that I then dedicated a lot of my life to. 5 years specifically now is when I launched We Are No Code, was to help non-technical people. So ideally, we started this out as an online school for non-technical entrepreneurs. We now also work with businesses to help them automate some of their processes. So our mission is to democratize entrepreneurship for non-technical founders, and it's been awesome. We've helped founders like Heidi. She built her MVP in 8 weeks. Today, this seems like a really long time because this was in the age of no code. She then went on to raising more than $3 million and getting with for her platform Aware Health and getting into Techstars. This is another profile, Mike. He actually came to us. He was about to start studying like computer programming, basically. Go back to school to build an app. I was like, hey, there's a better way. And he was able to launch his app plus scale his agency to 40K with what we like these non-technical skills he was able to learn. And then we have people like business owner Gavin. He came in, had a t-shirt printing business, wanted to go software. And so he converted that into a software business for the industry that he was in. And since he already had the contacts, it was awesome. So we've now trained more than 600 founders in 23 countries, and it's just been an honor to be able to help people do that over the past couple of years. But we're now going to be talking a little bit more about you, which is the goal of this presentation. And I wanted to really start off with, if you've done everything right, we are in a place where we need to find product market fit. Christian, I already have product market fit. I know everything about it. Great. Do you have paying customers? Well, I don't. I have one. It's my aunt, and she's super nice. She's paying $12 a month for it. I'm getting great feedback. Everyone I talk to is enjoying it. That, my friends, is not product market fit. So let's talk a little bit about that because I want to make sure that we nail the important things here. People oftentimes think if I just build a great product, that is basically going to lead the charge. And of course, product-led growth is a real thing. And it is very important for us to build products that are able to speak for themselves and help us sell them. But I'm not a believer that products sell themselves. So, even though you're more of a excited about the building part, as soon as you get a mastery over actually getting customers, now you really will turn this passion project, this sometimes money hole, into an actual business, a revenue generating business. And that's when you learn how to build, you learn how to sell. And now, my friends, you are a self-reliant entrepreneur. So this chat is really, really important to me. And it's the place where a lot of people end up kind of stumbling. So let's break this down into 2 main things. The first point that I want to have here is that pre-product market fit and post-product market fit are completely different phases. So your main goal is to find product market fit through this specific presentation. Now, product market fit is basically a combination of a couple of different things. You, on one hand, over here, and I'm just going to be doing this live as we speak. On the left-hand side, we have an actual customer. Some people call it the market. This is ultimately a customer, but not a customer. It's a customer segment, right? It's a persona. It's an individual who you think would be a good buyer and user of your platform, right? And you may be right about that. You could also be wrong. In fact, I would usually argue that most people have at least 3 different segments that they think would be good, you know, customers for their product. And your goal early on is to figure out which one of those 3 is going to be your beachhead market. Now, a beachhead market is basically the segment of the market or the segment of the customers out there that are going to get you to $1 million in revenue. And early on, since you don't have the time and money to go out after everyone, you want to make sure that you've selected the, let's call it the lowest hanging fruit. So figuring out who the customer is probably the most important thing. And I see this all the time. People have an idea of who the customer is, they build the product, and then the customer kind of either doesn't use it or uses it and is not actually willing to pay for it. And I think this is where early on, because all of you here are incredibly good, let's call it vibe coders, or people who are able to quickly adapt things. This is your biggest strength right now, the speed in adapting to be able to find product market fit. We don't have to be right. We don't have to be right about any of these pieces of the puzzle. We just need to determine what our next experiment is going to be. And the second piece of this puzzle is basically the pain point or the problem. This is something that if we don't understand what we are solving for or what the problem this specific individual is facing, then we can't optimize our product to solve that pain point. Oftentimes, the first day of class when we teach boot camps is we're like, give us your one-liner. And of course, people go on to basically deliver a 5-paragraph explanation. And then they say, so basically it's and I wish they would just start with what comes after that. Because if you're not able to explain in very simple terms without a bunch of jargon what you actually do and for who, then you have a problem. And again, I want to take the pressure off being right. You don't have to be right. You could have today the completely wrong product, or you could have targeted the wrong customer. Your ability to kind of adapt what you've created or to target a new customer is going to be your ability to turn this into a revenue generating business. Give me just a second. Baby monitor over here. I'm going to put this outside the door so that they can get it. That's right. So for all of you who have kids, I just want to say it's not because you have kids that you can't be an entrepreneur. I run 3 different teams at the moment. So let's keep going. This pain point, there could be 3 different pain points. But guess what? There's probably usually only going to be one key one that people are willing to actually pay for and to use over and over and over, and to use even if it's not yet perfect, right? We can assume that our products are not yet perfect. What is the third one? Well, the third one is what determines the difference between a money hole or a good idea into a business. It's the business model. Business model, what does that mean? A lot of people are like, how are you going to make money? We're going to have ads, and we're going to do subscription, and we're going to do this, and we're also going to have opportunity for that. I'm sorry to tell you, but unfortunately, you will have to select one. Again, I just want to repeat this. I'm going to keep repeating this. You don't have to be right. You do not have to be right. You just have to have the ability to, test out each one of these assumptions one by one until you fall on the mecca. Let me just write subscription, which is probably most of your business models will be subscription. There could be many other models too. There are 14 proven business models. If you want to check out those business models, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You could just pick one of those, and then we're going to test whether it works or not. Now, business model doesn't matter if you don't get the customer and pain point right. So early on, and I highly recommend that you do this next, is to determine and to write down on paper, like, who are the three individuals? Who are the three people who you think would be great customers for your product? But very specifically, don't just say, "Oh, my product." The biggest mistake people can make is to go after everyone. So just write down the three sub segments. Then go to an LLM, whether you use ChatGPT, Grok, or whichever one you use, and just describe that customer and tell the LLM to transform that into an ICP, which is the ideal customer profile, which is basically going to determine all the things about that individual, and you'll be able to understand that person more in depth, like what are their pain points, what are their different characteristics. And then, my friend, you should choose one of them. And it's just because we're trying to make an experiment. And probably not all of these are going to be equal, right? Let me give you an example. Some customers you won't even be able to reach. Probably not a good customer to go after. Probably, it's going to, some people don't actually have the problem. So probably not a good customer to go after. Then we will have the scenario where someone likes it and is willing to pay but doesn't have the money for it. Probably not a good customer. We want to go after a customer that fits a number of different criteria, right? They have the pain. They're aware of the pain. Maybe they're already trying to fix this pain. There are a solid number of them. We're able to reach them. All of these things. But your ultimate goal with this series of experiments, because again, let's think of ourselves as scientists here, is to reach my rule of one. This is the founder's mecca. This is, you have one customer segment. They have one key pain point that you solve for. I keep writing paint. You're able to reach them through one marketing channel. You monetize them with, and I keep writing one here, one business model. And let's see what else. And there is one outcome they want. All of these things, if you're able to align this as much as possible, and this is Mecca, this is not actually the reality of startup world, but the closest we can get to to having one customer with one that solves and one product. Let's add that one product that solves one pain point that we're able to distribute through one channel with one business model. I'm just saying all these things because that is the ultimate goal that you should all have. Get to the closest as possible to this. And the reason why I say this is because with the power of Lovable, you can very easily build a complete product from scratch as long as you are staying close to the customer feedback. Now, the process. Now, this is something I love talking about. The process. Early on, you're going to have to do stuff that doesn't scale. That's another quote from the founder of Y Combinator. Our goal after product market fit is to hit product, not market, but product channel fit. This is where we're testing out different marketing channels and figuring out which one is the best, right? So if we're not able to nail down one customer, one product, solving one pain point, with one business model in this first phase, product market fit, it doesn't matter. Like, we won't start testing out all these different channels. A big mistake that people make is they think they have product market fit and then they start spending marketing money, but they don't really. They're going to waste a lot of money. There's going to be a lot of market friction, meaning that it costs a lot of money to hit these, to reach these people. And so, again, your goal is to go through and get the closest as possible to this rule of one. And you should be making big moves until you reach that, right? You should change completely the customer segment that you go after. You should completely rebuild the product to fit that specific customer. You should, change the pain point that your product solves. You should test out different business models. So again, right now we're in the phase where we need to just start getting our first paying customers. And then we need to understand a number of different things. So early on, for us to be able to sell, at first, we want to be in the room. We want to be in the room because we need to do things that are not scalable. We need to understand what makes people tick. We need to understand all the fundamentals because there are 3 other circles here that we need to get right for this next phase. And so if we're not able to figure out, for example, the specific objections that our customer has, then we're going to be talking about the wrong things in the ads. We're going to be talking about the wrong things in the frequently asked questions at the end of that landing page. If we don't know the outcome or the pain that these individuals are suffering, that is the one that people are actually willing to pay to solve, we're talking about the wrong things. And so the only time when we can actually scale our marketing is when we understand the foundational pieces of the selling process. So that usually has to do with the outcome that people are looking for. When I say outcome, I'm talking about the promised land, right? So like one example I love giving is like, sometimes I see people selling the features versus the outcome. What do I mean by this? If what I'm selling is a beautiful vacation in Bali, I'm going to be selling them on them sitting on the beach sipping a margarita. I'm not going to sell them on, okay, so you take this flight and then you're going to take a 12-hour flight. Oh, wait. There's actually a 1-hour line to check in your bags. And then there's, your kids are yelling in the flight. And that, like, those are all things that people have to go through to get to promised lands, right? And that's actually the third thing you should be talking about when you're like trying to sell to people. The first thing is the actual promise. It's the outcome, the dream outcome that people want. And I see here the question: what if there are more than one pain points? You start with all 3 of them or just one? And how do you know which one to start with? Great question. And I'm going to give you an answer to that in a second. And I'm just going to write a little reminder over here, which is customer discovery. Because if you do this process right, it's happening naturally. But I would say it's okay if you have more than one pain point. We're just about to talk about that. After the big promise, there's basically, and you're going to realize that probably in the eye of the customer, those 3 problems are not seen as all equal. If you ask them, sort these in order of the most painful to the least painful, then if you do that with 20 different individuals, you're going to see very clearly which one of those wins, or at least you'll be able to kill one of them. So I'm going to explain how this all comes together also in actual reality, like on a landing page too, because I think it's super important to do that. So we first lead with the promise. The promise is you're sipping margaritas on the beach in Bali, right? The benefits are going to be the smaller outcomes, right, that people get. You need to really understand the 3 benefits. So it could be things like you save a bunch of time, you save a bunch of money. It could be, these are basically 3 subcategories of the outcome, right? So here, a terrible example is actually this trip to Bali at this point, but but it could be luxury hotel, like that is, oh, great. Seamless, travel experience. That could be another benefit, depending on what we're actually selling, obviously. And the third one could be save money, right? You get really good price. And that's because you go through this package. I don't know. Um, the second thing is like, you sold me on the promise, but now like what does that mean for me? Like, what do I actually kind of get? These are the benefits. And then we talk about the features. But why do we talk about the features? Christian, you said no features. The features are what realistically tie in the customer's brain the product to the benefits and the outcomes that they're going to receive. So they're like, that's the promise. Okay, cool. I don't believe you, Christian. That's BS. The 3 benefits? Huh. Really? That sounds really cool. How do you actually get there? Now we talk about the features. The features are the things that get you there. And so this is also, by the way, the exact 3 things that you would. So the features are things that you're going to want to talk about third. This is the exact landing page structure you're going to want. The promise, the hero section, a big promise, probably a visual and a one line that really embodies the promise. After that, the benefits. After that, the features that give you the benefits, and then you kind of go down, and then usually it'll be things like how it works. Sometimes that needs to be explained. Upload your CSV. Let AI do its work. Download the results. I don't know. I don't know what your products look like, and I'd love for people to kind of like drop what product they're actually working on, so we can actually start jumping into some real examples here. But yeah, I think that ultimately, more likely a rum-based drink. I love that benefit. Rum-based drink. Thanks. That's funny. Adding some humor to this conversation here. Now, at this point, you're like, Christian, where are you even going with this? Well, I'm going to explain to you exactly where I'm going with this. These things are things that when you hop on a call with people, you're going to start over time understanding exactly what it is that people want as an outcome. You're going to start, when you mention a specific benefit, people are like, oh, that's a cool benefit. That's a cool benefit. What? You can get that? Oh, maybe I should be leading with that third one that I usually mention. And what that is really fine-tuning your sales messaging, right? And it allows you to then build landing pages that can sell when you're not in the room, right? Because after we've done this, how it works, there's going to be, at some point after all of this, there's going to be a frequently asked questions. This is basically where you're pitching your product to someone, or you're talking about your product to someone, and they're like, yeah, but what about this? Yeah, but what about that? Yeah, but what about this? These are all friction points that basically are between the customer being ready to buy and the customer interested in your solution. So we want to do these things manually early on and run a lot of these so that we can crack the code on what are the things we should be talking about to make someone be able to buy without us being in the room. So a lot of people are like, oh, you just like build a landing page and get a bunch of traffic towards it. It's like, that only works if your landing page is killer. And so understanding the deep, deep insight from your customer base allows you to take out the information around how to talk about the offer, how to talk about the benefits, what to describe as the main features, and basically making sure that you're answering all the objections that make someone buy without you being in the room. That's the magic of marketing, is when you figured out that stuff, because then guess what? We're going to use these exact same things right here to basically, and I'll just FAQ, I'll just say objections here. We want to objection busting, because we know that 10 people ask the same question. We need to answer that question within the landing page. Why? Well, because you're not going to be in the room. Like, that's the big difference. And this is what we're going to talk about now. Early stage finding customers is a methodology that is proven in the startup world. It is the first 100 customers. This is, or 200. You could also do that. First 100 customers. These are people that we're actually going to target personally, and we're going to get all the insight we can from going out there and having conversations with them. And then we're going to be able to use this information to go out and get the next 10,000 customers. Why? Because here we have to be in the room. We have to do things that are not scalable. Here we start using all the things that we learned in that process to start closing people without us having to be there, right? Or even if we are there to be able to do that, but we have a much higher closing rate, right? So, for example, if we say, "Oh, I need to have an event or a webinar to present my entire thing," great. The way that you're going to know how to talk about your offer potentially at the end of that presentation is going to be through understanding exactly the things that make people click. I know I'm going pretty quick here. I hope I'm not losing people. Let me know if my pacing is good. This, my friends, is where you can go scalable marketing strategies. Scalable marketing strategies, my friends. This is what we're all aiming for ultimately, where you just run ads. But guess what? If you're not talking about the right outcome, if you're not targeting the right individual, and if you're not saying the right benefits, and if you're not busting the right objections, you're just going to spend a bunch of money and it's not going to see results. So this is really, really important. Now, at this point, people are like, okay, cool. So how do you go about this first 100 customers, right? And this is what we're going to start talking about right now. Your pace is great. Gordon, I love you, buddy. Let's talk about this first 100 customers. Now, if you've done this process right, and trust me, I know that most of you haven't because I run boot camps where I teach people this stuff and they don't actually do it. Customer discovery. A lot of people think that's just talking to customers. Here's the big thing they don't get right. They tell people about their product and they turn this into a sales conversation. And if there's one thing I can tell you is that if you are doing sales at this point, you are messing up the whole process. This is the process through which you ask questions to these ideal customers you think. So again, you had 3 different prospects you thought. You're going to start off by being like, I think this prospect or this customer segment or this individual I'm going to go after has the highest likelihood. And I'm going to do, let's say, set up a couple of interviews with these individuals. How are we going to set up those interviews? I'll let you know in just a little bit. We're going to get to that. But ultimately, this is the place where a lot of the magic happens. And guess what? It gets you over the fear of selling. And it's sales without being sales. What do I mean by this? There's a couple of key questions that you can ask. Tell me, the first question everyone should be asking is, tell me about the last time you booked a flight to travel internationally in the use case that I used. Or tell me about the last time you, and then basically what your product solves without talking about your product at all. These conversations should not talk at all about your product. It's about getting insight from your market, understanding their life so that you can get better at talking to them. And ultimately, in the longer term, you're building a list of people who might become your first paying customers. Because this does 2 things. It builds the wait list and it also builds the relationship with these individuals. So at that point, you know, let's say I've done like 10 different customer discovery interviews. At that point, I potentially have much better insight that I can go to adapt my product market fit and be like, you know what, I talked to the customer. It really seems like we're targeting the wrong person. This person like doesn't suffer from this problem, is not willing to pay for it, is broke, all these different things. And it takes the pressure off because people hate selling. Who likes that, you know, second-hand car salesman who's going to come and try to close you? And I think that's really the important insight that you should take away. You have to do things manually, and you have to get insight that allows you to build things that are scalable marketing strategies. So if you have done this well, you will be essentially doing customer discovery interviews before you build anything. Now, I know everyone's already built stuff. It's never too late for you to do customer discovery interviews. You should continually do them even after you've launched your product anyway. As soon as we've done that, this turns straight into sales. So like basically that's one thing that people kind of forget is that like, oh, wait, what's happening here? Malfunctions, help me. Excellent. So this is where this naturally just turns into sales. You've had a bunch of conversations with people. You fine-tuned your product. You fine-tuned your messaging. And now this naturally is like, hey, at the end of these customer discovery interviews, I usually say, hey, do you want me to contact you once the product is ready to test it out? Um, it converts automatically into sales. And it allows you to understand the things you need to do um, to go from first 100 customers to scalable marketing strategies. Because remember, in this first phase, we're getting in-depth insight that's going to be difficult to get once we start doing scalable marketing strategies, right? It's really the things that make people tick. And that is at the core of sales. It's not about actually closing people. It's about getting the right offer in front of the right customer at the right time. So let's talk a little bit about that. Everything, my friends, is a funnel. Whether you're fundraising, whether you are, going after customers, whether you're doing paid ads, whether you're doing SEO, there are different phases to the customer journey when it comes to buying. And ultimately, we have the tools these days to be able to go incredibly quick when it comes to these phases. And so we're going to be using that to our advantage. I think the coolest thing about platforms like Lovable is that now, my friends, you can literally iterate so quickly. Oh, didn't fit the market. What if we build another product? Boom. Next day, you have another product that you're putting in front of a customer, getting actual real life feedback. But remember, we have to go through these phases. The first phase is awareness, right? That's we even hear about you. Consideration is when we basically get them to see what you're doing, right? Get them on a landing page. And conversion is when they are fully convinced and willing to pay for your product. Loyalty then becomes this cool thing. And hopefully, over time, we are taking each loyal customer and creating what we call a growth loop. This is the ultimate thing in startups. It's like each happy customer is basically referring another customer. And this is so amazing. And I'm going to give you an example of this in just a second. I think it was, SurveyMonkey. Basically, they had created this funnel where they would get people to buy their product, which was a survey platform. And here people would come out as paying customers. But at checkout, or after someone filled out the like a specific survey, it would be like, hey, do you want to create your own survey for any reason? And that now meant that every new customer was basically referring an existing customer. And so this could be like, give people free credits. This is so awesome because it starts becoming like each new customer that you spent a lot of time getting through these 3 steps of even figuring out who you are, considering your product, and then convincing them to buy here, now becomes an ambassador of your new one. How can you do this? I just saw that question inside the, well, there's a number of things, right? There are things in the product that you can do, right? There are things with the customers. So with the customers could be an affiliate, right? It's like you have an affiliate program where if people refer people, they get extra credits, or they get free access, or they, get paid. That's a good way with people. If not with features, right? You could do something where if people use the free version, then it's branded the brand. So, for example, with Lovable, one of them, not to expose their strategy, it's like, the little Lovable badge. So if you don't want to pay, or if you don't want to take that away, it's going to be there. And then people who see your landing page will see Lovable. What's Lovable? Boom. Now some of the people who start seeing some of your websites will see Lovable there. And you can obviously turn that off. But these are all great ways that you can build within product things that bring more customers for each existing customers. Okay. Christian is going to take a little breath here. So everything's a funnel. Everything is a funnel. But my friends, if you think that every marketing channel is good early stage, you are drastically mistaken. Here are a handful of channels that you could choose to go after. And I'm about to tell you why almost none of these are good channels to use early on. I could tell you from 2 perspectives. First, from the guy who spent a bunch of money with all of these and has not, and has learned the hard way through several startups. But also, I'm going to break it down logically so you can really understand. Early on in a startup, we need to get feedback at all costs. Feedback is going to allow us to get revenue, and it's going to allow us to improve this product, and it's going to allow us to scale. And a lot of these marketing channels will not allow us to get quick results. And that's why not all marketing strategies are good for the early stage of building a startup. So here we have SEO. SEO, you could do on page or off page. I won't go too far into detail, but it's how you rank on like Google, and now on LLMs has become a very important thing. Um, you can take steps, um, to improve this. Um, but usually you're going to see the results of those steps coming in as traffic 6 months, 9 months, 12 months down the line after you've taken the actions that you need to take. That might be writing a bunch of blog articles. It will probably be finding and creating backlinks. Again, I'm just naming things. You can rewatch this if you're interested in. Um, but basically, not all of these are going to be good. And a big mistake that people make is to ultimately try to do too many of them early stage. And so that's where I'm going to kind of save you. So, social media. Yes, Christian can start posting today. And sure, over time, that will work, right? I now have actually 270,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, which is called We Are No Code. But for the first 2 years, no one cared. No one cared. Um, and so you just have to understand that some of these are going to be long-term investments, and long-term investments are things we don't necessarily have time and money for early on, right? We have limited bandwidth. We're a one-person team with maybe a couple $1,000s. And so we need to really invest in channels that get quick return on investment in terms of the return being feedback. And ultimately, content is also great, but again, it'll take long until you build a content strategy that actually starts bringing in people. Outbound, which is highly personalized outreach messages, is super effective. We'll talk about that in more details, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. Paid ads can be interesting, but again, if you haven't figured out the big pieces of the puzzle, you are spending money on a test. Just understand that. It's not necessarily to get the customers, it's to test different landing pages and ads to get quick responses. But there you're going to basically be able to, and I'll show you how you could do this inside Lovable as well. You need to get feedback on these ads, right? So how many people landed on that landing page? They saw the ad, they landed on your landing page, and then how many gave you their email or signed up? Those are the metrics you're looking after. Again, here, this is still going to be expensive. So you should think about it as more of an experiment. Spend $100 here, $100 there. I totally love testing with paid ads, but don't think it's going to be the most reliable channel to find and reach and close people. Email marketing, this is definitely a good one. And it's the reason why a lot of you have been told to build a list, right? It's because once you get people's emails, you can start dripping value to them via email. And email is quite cheap, and it is very sort of direct response in the sense that, like, either people answer or they don't. Influencer. Now I do some influencer deals as the influencer, which is kind of funny. And you have to have money. It's going to be expensive, and most people will not answer. Affiliates, this can be good, but for early stage, again, it's a bit more complicated to set up. And so although you could do all of these different things, the one here that really, the two really that stand out the most for me, and that have been used by early stage startups for now more than half a century, 50 years in Silicon Valley, and that are used by tiny startups and individuals trying to launch, the same as large companies looking to grow their go-to-market motions, are outbound, and email is the other one. And there are really three key things that we have to understand about this. There are three important things. outbound is, and why is outbound so important, is because it can give us very good feedback, right? We reach out to people, they either answer or they don't. And if they answer, we're able to potentially have a customer discovery call. It's what most of you will have already used if you're doing customer discovery interviews. And it's also a great way to do demos or sales in later stages of the process. Now, one thing people get wrong here is that they just kind of like send out to everyone the same thing. But there are really 3 core steps here that if you get right, you're going to differentiate yourself. The first one is build a list. You got to build a list of prospects. We're not going to blast this out to everyone. We're going to go to yoga teachers in San Francisco who run classes for a larger yoga studio. Like, be specific. Again, this is where selecting your ideal customer, even if you're wrong and end up changing that, is going to be so valuable. The second phase is going to be to get some actual, like, do some research around these people. So it's like usually enrich. Do some research around these people, understand them a little bit more personally, and also get their contact information so that you can actually reach them. So this is called enrichment. So enrich these leads, build a lead list, enrich these leads. And then the third thing you would do would be to draft. And this is where people also get it wrong. It's not just about like sending a one size fits all. Personalized. It's about creating a personalized outreach strategy. And if you get these 3 pieces right, my friends, you are increasing dramatically your chances. So at this point, people are like, Christian, you know what? I get these LinkedIn messages all the time. And my friends, we both know, I'm saying me and you, but there's probably a couple more of you on the back here, that there you can notice from far, like something that's been a little bit, thoughtful and a little more personalized to something that's just totally generic. And the mistake people do in outreach is usually just like slamming people with an offer right up front and not doing their research. However, if the first line of your message is super casual and relates specifically to the last post that I just made on LinkedIn, there's just a higher likelihood that I'm going to answer. And so I want to bring you through some of the like these 3 things, because I think there's a lot to be said about each one of them. And then at the end of this, I'm going to give you access to something special. and by the end of this, you're probably going to be like, oh, Christian this is just a massive pitch. But it's not. I actually built this because a lot of people were facing this exact problem. And so I'll be talking about a way where you can do this kind of automated, but you can also do it fully manual and completely for free. So this is what I'm going to teach you how to do right now. Build a list. What does this mean? First of all, you want to target the right individual, right? So let's make sure we target the right person. After we've targeted the right person, we want to make sure that there is some kind of a signal that shows that these people are high intent buyers, right? Not just anyone, not just like, oh, this is like, this is a yoga teacher, but there are some yoga teachers, it's a terrible example again. There are some yoga teachers that are going to be better to go after than others, right? And I'm going to be showing you this in real life. We're actually going to jump in and I'm going to be, showing you LinkedIn and how to like go out and find and build a list and like actually do these things manually. So let's actually do this. So we want to basically build a list of targets that are ideal customer profiles that have shown to have some kind of high intent. And after that, and probably also, let's say like geographic area. That might be for some of you the case, for others, not so much. And what if we have a consumer product and not a B2B product? Great question. Thanks for putting that. I'm kind of looking at the chat, but we'll be doing a lot more Q&A in just a moment. They're pretty much similar things. I would say that what you would have to kind of do differently would be to understand that you have to target more than one person in a B2B company. So like there's more than one person, and it's also a different sales cycle. But ultimately, if it's in a B2B, you still have to determine who is the person. Is this the product manager in a tech company with 11 to 100 employees? Yes? Great. Let's build a list of those. Signals, I'll be talking a little bit about that. And then potentially geographic area. Maybe you're targeting people in geographic areas who earn in dollars. So they have the, maybe not. Maybe it's more for your local market. That really, it's, you don't have to determine just the geographic area. I'll actually take this out. Enrich, what are we doing in enrichment? Once we have this list, let's build a list of 100 people at least for each one of these campaigns. We are going to want to find two things, as I mentioned. We want to actually find their contact information. So this could be email, phone number. It could be things like their social security number. No, no, sorry. I like to have a laugh. So email, phone number. You could potentially, if you have phone number, also have like WhatsApp. You want their LinkedIn URL. So you could potentially contact them through LinkedIn. And then you want to get some information about them. So this could be like last post. It could be what their company sells. It could be, I'm going to make these really long. Let me just try to put this on 2 so we don't go too much into the personalized space. The last post that they did on LinkedIn, what their company sells, something that's highly personal. There are some cool ones like job change. So like they just changed jobs. Oh, that could be a trigger for us. So we can find out that information as well. We could, I don't know. There's just so much information that you could get. Like you could literally have their headline on LinkedIn. You could have their company history. You could have their, like, we can enrich so much information. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a little moment. And then you want to basically be able to, for that 100-person list, you could either write these things out, each one individually. You want to make it highly personal, and you want to create an outreach message. So here, LinkedIn is not, is not the same as email. If you receive an email, it's going to be a long email. If you're doing LinkedIn, make it conversational. Don't create a full email pitch right out the gate. So we want to treat different. You might have to create different personalized messages based on the channel you're going after. The other thing that you want to also think of in terms of creating personalized outreach is going to be that we have to write a very simple message. Here's my 3-point formula. Highly personalized first line. I also include, this is not a pitch. Like this is not sales. I'm not trying to do sales if I'm doing customer discovery, for example. So that's going to get their attention. Second one is basically a direct kind of like, I always put a little compliment in there somewhere. And then have a very straightforward ask. Make it 3 lines. Make it very short. And usually I'm asking for a customer discovery interview. Let me see here because I see that there's something went wrong on my page here. So let me know if you can still see me. Yeah, so now we've basically built a list, enriched a list, and personalized messaging. Now we just have to actually send it out. And like anything in life, my friends, it is a funnel. We'll send out 100 messages. We'll get probably, 30% of those, 30 people to actually read the message. And then we'll maybe get, I don't know, let's say 5 people or 3 people to say, yeah, let's I'm down to do a call or whatever. And then one person shows up because these two others, they just forgot about it. So I would wire this into your framework. Most people will not answer. You will be doing outreach. Most people will not answer. Most people will not convert. And you have to do things at scale. So the better you are at identifying the right people, getting the correct information, and creating personalized outreach, the higher likelihood to get more conversions. And the difference between a 1 and a 2% conversion rate means you can double your business overnight. So it is pretty important. But let's say, how could we, figure out how to build a list, for example? There's places you can buy lists, and that's great. However, there are also places, my friends, where you can build lists, right? And you can find contacts. So the idea is you need to find these individuals. LinkedIn is probably my favorite place. This is my LinkedIn profile URL. You can find me on LinkedIn, Christian Peverelli, and I'd be happy to connect with you. Here, I could type in things like startup founder events. Let's do something like that. So let's say that I'm targeting founders, right? I could come here and I could figure out, okay, let's see an event, no results, startup pitch. We're doing this live, my friends. So, okay, pitch and win. Pitch your startup idea. Okay, this, if I'm looking for startup founders, I can expect that 25 people here. Okay, these are, and again, I'm looking for startup founders who are actually, as we said, targeted. So they're startup founders. These people are also building SaaS. Signal. So my signal is these people registered for a startup event. That's a pretty good signal that they're interested in startups. So not all of these will be qualified people, but if I click on attend here, now I have access to seeing all these people. And if you have a LinkedIn URL, my friends, for individuals, you could do a whole lot with that. So let's see this. Let's see. Mern. Okay. Open link in new tab. I've found an individual. Now I have their LinkedIn URL. Okay. And I could potentially grab this, and some of these will qualify, some of these will not qualify. Now, here's where the fun part kind of starts. So there's different ways that we can find people, right? You might be finding them actually in by researching people. So I could also come here and say project managers, right? And I could come here and I could ultimately find product managers. Let's see, people. Okay. And then there are additional filters that I could add to this. So it's like, this is just people everywhere. I'm in Los Angeles, so it's bringing up a bunch of people in Los Angeles, but I could just put United States, and then it will, I could also say working at specific companies if you want that. And we could just connections of, this is a pretty good one as well. Show results. Boom. Now we have a list of product managers who work in the US. Look at that. A bunch of them too. So if I'm going after product managers, I can basically grab all these profiles, and if I have their URL, then that's a powerful thing too, my friends. This is where I'm going to secretly give you and show you access to a tool that, that I'm building at the moment. That's going to be able to do a lot of this stuff for you. So you can go out and based on these, you can scrape information from them, and you could then write out personalized messages for these individuals. But you could also do this a lot quicker. So basically, one of the companies that I'm launching in a couple of months, and you can get free credits to, is called Outbound. It's a way to basically think of it like Lovable for finding customers. So I'm going to very quickly kind of show you what that looks like. And you are actually the first people ever to see this in action. We have a very first version of the product. Here you could basically ask it to build a list. So like build a list of product managers in the US working in tech companies. This is actually attached to a bunch of data providers that's going to allow us to build out this list. Because I'm not going to spend too much cooking, I know we're already kind of over time. But here it's ultimately finding these prospects for you. And on the right hand side, instead of controlling something, you're controlling a list. Um, so here it's actually going to bring in a list of people who fit this criteria. Again, let's just refresh here, just in case. And it failed. Excellent. Welcome to the life of product demos. No, it succeeded. The ups and downs of startups. So here it's actually brought in a bunch of product managers who work for tech companies with their LinkedIn URLs. And now I can do things like, please find or please enrich the LinkedIn URLs for these people. And I can also make spelling mistakes like popple. But ultimately, we can do all of this within Outbound. And we're now preparing it so you can actually do outreach as well. We're in the process of building this at the moment, but you're going to be able to build highly personalized lists and do direct outreach to these individuals without writing a single line of code. And so this usually people are spending thousands of dollars on data, and then they're spending lots of money on other tools. They're trying to scramble them all together. We've kind of brought it all together. And as you can see here, we brought in all the information about these individuals, their occupation, their all of their things. I'm not going to show you too much, but from here, you can basically also do research agents. So like, okay, now go and check out their websites and tell me, who their customer is, right? So maybe that first line that's highly personalized when we start writing the messages is really something around, I know that you're helping out, engineers, build integrations quicker with your software, and that for thousands of people at the same time. And so this is something that we're really building. You can also do this stuff manually. So don't wait for us to give you free credits to this. However, we will give you free credits to this. I got confirmation from my team. To get those free credits, you'd have to go to outbound.io. I think we have our old landing page. We're rebranding. A way for you to do personalized outreach at scale and to basically find and close more ideal customer profiles. So just fill in this information here and you'll be the first to get access to it when we launch with some free credits as well. That's outbound.io. You can see it underneath. But if we come back here, and I don't want to make this like a huge pitch fest, like here we can like write personalized messaging, then we can send it on LinkedIn, then we can, personalized emails as well, et cetera, et cetera. But we're not going to waste our time here. I really want you to understand the fundamentals here, which are that, over time you will be able to test different channels, right? But this channel gets you on the phone with people, and it allows you to do this first 100 customer process to be able to understand the things that really make people click. And then we start building landing pages. And now we can start investing because we know what makes people click. As the founder and CEO, you should be basically, at least getting on 30, 50, 100 sales calls before you start considering outsourcing things, because other people can do this for you, but you're the only one who has decision-making process to make these big moves. Oh, we're targeting the wrong person. Boom, change it. Oh, actually, it's a different benefit they're looking for. Boom, change the landing page or the offer. Or, oh, they're actually looking for this instead of that. You can make these big moves. And if you don't have this feedback firsthand, you're going to waste a lot of your time and energy trying to figure it out. So I really highly recommend that you just take this approach. Just like right now, and this is something that you have to get used to. The first time I created a YouTube video, I was terrified. People were going to judge me. Oh my God, what if I say something wrong? You should see me cringing watching my editors edit. The edit was awesome, but I just cringed every time I heard my voice. And it's a similar thing we got to get over with kind of outreach and sales. It's really important for us to get over the fear of reaching out to 100 people and only 20 people read our message. It's like, but if we start getting the mindset of like, it's not personal, it's just that everything is a funnel. Like, and that we have to do things in large quantities to be able to get results from them. It's the same thing with outreach. It's the same thing for sales. It's the same thing for fundraising. It's the same thing for paid ads as it is for influencer marketing. Um, it's pretty much the same thing for most tests that we're going to be running. And so, um, you know, one thing that's important for you early on, and I want to go into the Q&A now because I think that'll be valuable, is to remember where you're at. Remember that your advantage building with Lovable is your ability to quickly make big changes in your startup. And as soon as you fall out of love of your startup and fall in love with the process of experimenting with these hypotheses, at first, these really big hypotheses that you have, that's when you start unlocking these big things. And trust me, most people, once you lock product market fit, now the whole game changes. It's easy to convince people to join your team. It's easy to convince people to invest in you. It's easy to have confidence in leaving your job. A lot of things become easier when you find product market fit. You don't have to quit your full-time job. You just need to be able to figure out what the next experiment is, put that experiment to play without thinking that it has to do with you being right or not right, or are you intelligent or not. Let go of all that ego. That's all BS. That's all stuff that's going to hold you back from the ability to make big decisions by doing tests and also running these experiments one by one, fine-tuning the offer, making sure we have the right customer, making sure we're targeting the right outcome and the right pain point. And then once we have people who are using this product, we've gotten lots of feedback, and we have a product that's starting to get first sales, we could start talking about scaling that out to more people. So thanks so much for joining. My big thing for you is, like, entrepreneurship for me and for many of the people that I train is a career. So don't think of this as like right now. Invest in yourself and your ability to get better at this just 1% every day. And to, as Malik is saying, try to put your imposter syndrome in the back seat. And the best way to do that is by actually taking actions. And I think that Lovable is such a great way to do that. I also did want to do another little shout out to Make. Make.com is also a sponsor. They're doing a session next week. Check it out. If you go to their support channel, they also have 12 free months. So you could, like, for automation. And that can be something that could be valuable to automate certain things in your daily life. Because ultimately, most founders are running around watching 1,000 videos, not really taking action, and usually working on 1,000 different things. And if you end up being that person, it's okay. I was that person. Almost everyone who started their journey was that person. But you need to change the narrative. You need to figure out what are the important things for you to work on that really move the needle, and not do everything. Marketing is the world where everyone's telling you to post 6 times on LinkedIn a day, plus do all this. If you get caught up in that, man, you're going to be so busy and you're not going to see actual results. When in reality, you just don't want to look in the face one of these 3 big things that you haven't figured out the problem, the product that that fixes this pain point, or maybe there is no pain point, that your customer segment is actually never going to be a good customer segment to go after. That your business model maybe is just like people love your product, but they're not willing to do it. So I just really want to encourage you, because I was a person who was non-technical, who had never launched a tech startup in my life, zero tech background. I literally had my brother set up my first email address as a kid because I was more of an outdoorsy guy. And I didn't get there overnight. So just believe that by continually investing in yourself, you're going to be able to see the results that you're really looking for. And that's what I want you to walk away from today with, is just, you can, if you take the long path, figure out and build great companies. So let's freaking do it. Let's go. That's what I always say on my YouTube channel. Let's take some questions. I really want some questions. I see someone. How do you build an outbound list for consumers? I would love to have a bit more insight on what type of consumers. So the more specific that you can be in your questions, please, the easier it's going to be for me to answer. If you like, and if you create a list, you can find those through multiple places. My first go-to is always first principles. Just think of like, where do these people hang out online? Where do these people hang out offline? And actually, I have a great story of a friend of mine who built a startup, and his startup targeted firefighters. And he was doing everything he could to find these people, build lists online. And then guess what worked? Walking into fire stations. So it's like sometimes the answer is as simple as that. It's like not everything is online. And so everyone has a different startup here. So think as first principles, just do a brainstorm. Where are these people hanging out online? Where are these people hanging out offline? Where can I find these people? And then you could start targeting these people individually. It might be through forums, it might be through LinkedIn, it might be through Facebook groups. It could also be through um, you know uh, WhatsApp groups. You could basically ask ChatGPT or any other LLM to do a deep research and find you communities and forums and places where the kind of person you're trying to look for is hanging out online, and then ask it to also give you options for offline. Again, first principle, my friends. Next question. How do you know scraping which website is legal or illegal? That's a really good question. The scrapers themselves are the ones that are legal or illegal, and all software products that are built who do this have done it for you. So unless, yeah, so I would not be too worried if you're going through a third party, and know that the responsibility is on the company. If they're doing illegal things, like, yeah, you probably don't want to use them. And so I would be very mindful of that. We use built in, and we have and we pay for basically very highly um, targeted data providers for certain things. But you can also have research agents that do scraping for you. That is not illegal. I think I missed the last question that came in there. Um, I don't know if we want to show that again or if we have another question.
I'll just jump in. Sorry. That question might be a little bit hard to
Perfect.
find. Thanks, Christian. They were just asking about your tool. How does that scrape? Which I
Oh,
think
yeah.
you
So
touched on.
again, yeah, so different data providers. Basically, we are attached to multiple data providers that are able to do, like, for example, waterfall enrichment. So to find emails, for example, which that can do, to find phone numbers, there are multiple data providers that we tap into via API, and it goes through more than one to be able to see, did we find it here? We didn't find it here. Did we find it here? We didn't find it here. Did we find it here? We didn't find it here. And then so on and so forth. And yes, you are right. LinkedIn is behind a sign in wall, but there is publicly available information, and you can get some of that information. What would your advice be if my target audience sits in Instagram and not in LinkedIn? I would build a list of Instagram profiles that you can target, um, whether those are your own audience or someone else's audience, and basically build a list and create a personalized outreach via DMs. So you can use a tool like ManyChat to do like outreach inside of Instagram, for example. How do you execute a GTM for a marketplace business? Oh, this is such a great question. I love it because I get it all the time. Uh, Marketplaces, what do we mean? Airbnb, even to a certain extent, like Uber, you have buyers, you have sellers, and you're a platform taking a cut in between, right? It could be Upwork. There's people providing their services and people buying those services. You're renting out your house on Airbnb, you're renting a house on Airbnb, and the platform takes a cut. This is my approach here. With two-sided marketplaces, the hard thing to do is to get, you have two customers you have to please. So let's talk specifically about how you would want to do that? First, you need to figure out one thing. How many people or how much inventory do you have to have for a buyer to come in and make a decision and to actually buy something? What do I mean by that? How many properties do I have to have listed in Paris for someone who's looking to book a place in Paris have to go through to find and rent a property? If we're doing accountants, how many accountants would you need to have on a platform for people to come and book one of those, to have enough choice basically to book an accountant? One side is what I call inventory. Well, probably what everyone calls inventory, really. But it's ultimately like you need to have enough to be able to please a buyer, for there to be enough choice to please someone who's coming to look for different options, right? So Airbnb, you might need 100 in a specific city. If we're talking about legal, it might be about 20 in a specific state. That's enough for me to go through 20 different like law firms. Great, I found one. I'm going to ask these 3. Excellent. These are well rated. Great, make a decision, ping them. Okay, hire one. It really depends on the market that you're in. But the first thing I would do is get enough inventory for it to be interesting on the buyer side. So you focus, and that pitch is really easy. It's like, hey, you want sales? You want more business? Everyone's like, yes, I want more business. Great. If you want more business, we can bring you more business. And guess what? You don't have to actually pay anything. We just take a cut if we bring you more business. Oh, that's even better. And if you want to increase your prices a little bit, just the ones that are reflected on our platform, then you don't have to even pay the commission. So let us bring you more customers. Is it okay if we grab all the information you already have on your website and add you to our platform? Yes, it is. Thank you, sir. Grab, put it on platform. Done. And you can use services like Mechanical Turks. You can use several different services to do that really effectively. But that's the easiest way to get people on your platform. It's also something that Airbnb did early on. They would just contact a bunch of people, and then they would bring those properties on the platform, and they went city per city, right? Because who cares if you have one property in Rome, one property in Paris, and another one in Timbuktu? Like, you don't have enough inventory to be able to do it. So some require to have enough choice in one geographic area. Others, you wouldn't, right? Some software businesses, they just work internationally. So that's the first thing you have to do. And once you have enough inventory, then you start going after the buyers. And that's really the name of the game. Because if you're not able to get people to pay for it, you never get these people paid. No one cares. Good, cool story. You might not find it cool, but early on, Airbnb, you remember how you had to like request whether it was available? And then it would like send, like you couldn't just book a property back in the day. And I'm probably old. Some of you who are like 10 don't even remember this. But basically, you couldn't actually book it. You'd have to like wait until the other person confirmed. Why was that? Well, because the hosts didn't care enough and didn't believe enough in Airbnb to keep their schedules up to date, their calendar up to date with availability and pricing. So what Airbnb did was just create a system where they had now 48 hours when a request came in to say yes or no. So, that's a great thing. Another good piece of advice for these platforms: don't try to do automatic payments through the marketplace right out of the gate. Your MVP could just be a searchable inventory of different properties that you have on the property. And if people say, I want to book it, they're now, it basically sends you an email, and then you're in charge of connecting them manually at first and getting people to pay. Because for the first 10, 20, 30 customers, right? And I see a lot of people wasting a lot of time and money trying to build every single little feature, and then realize, oh wait, but we're not able to get buyers. So it's like, and that's what we call the Wizard of Oz MVP. It's basically, the Wizard of Oz, it seems like this big voice with all the flames and all this stuff, and you just realize the guy behind like pulling in different things with a microphone and like behind curtains. It's kind of like you're showing that you've built basically something that provides the value, but then you're actually manually in the back like doing some of the stuff, right? And then you can build out software and automations to automate everything. There's no problem with that. But again, it's a quick way to get to market, and ultimately your customers only care like, did I book the property or did I not book the property? You're able to give them the outcome without having to build for a really long time the product. So yeah.
All right. just last question. I know your time's valuable, Christian. You know all the tools out there. When it comes to go to market, when it comes to any of the no code stuff here, what are you using? What are the? I know you mentioned Make for you've got automations that can help with your go to market. Is there anything else that you are working with right now that's your go to?
That's a great question. So what I currently and my go to market is different than other people's go to market because it depends on the phase of your business. Now, for building, I am always building MVPs in Lovable and Supabase. Those are like really my go to platforms. And if you are able to learn how to, people think it's just like, oh, you type in a prompt and you get it. It's like, no, to build these whole things end to end and to know how to do it for not one product, but any product, you kind of need to learn the methodology that you guys are going through a lot of this stuff in this process. So that those are definitely tools that I love. Um, then we're using our own tool, Outbound, which has been very good. That'll be publicly available in just a couple of weeks. And then automations. So as soon as you start having things that take grind time and you're doing things manually, like you got to put in place automations. Make is a great platform for that. There are plenty of platforms, and it's something that will allow you to save some of your time if you're doing things over and over and over repetitively. Um, I mean, I could talk about the stack that I kind of use. I use a lot of tools. Um, I sometimes email marketing tool. I use Brevo. So one thing that's cool with email marketing tools is that when you get someone's email, what you want to do is just get them automatically into a automated sequence, not a sequence that's just like bye bye bye. No, a sequence that basically like sends them a first email. Hey, thanks so much for signing up. And then after that, if they signed up for your platform, they're the specific type of person they are. So then you can start having emails that drip that just add a lot of value in their life. Oh, here's a free template. Oh, here's that. And then after a couple of emails, you basically are able to talk about your offer and give maybe a discounted offer. So that's a really cheap way to do marketing early on. I didn't get to touch upon that so much, but it's like as soon as you get people's emails, get them in an automated email sequence. And that sequence should be targeting to deliver value, 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 and then put an offer in front of those people. People love value. And if you're providing value, people will open your emails. So, yeah, I love that. Start slow, but always believe you can start a cult following. That's when you succeed. It's funny because, you know, people kind of talk about me now that I have some followers on LinkedIn, a little bit like that. But the truth is that like it's by providing things for free and valuable stuff. Like my videos eventually became valuable. At first, no one would watch them. That people start building trust with you. And so, what all the social media gurus talk about is kind of true. It's like if you give lots of value, people start seeing you as a specialist in this field. They start, liking you more because they're like, this person gave me good value, and that's where you're kind of building trust. So, if you ask me what the sort of future of this industry looks like, it is really in building out personal brands and building trust through them, and then for people who are interested, you have a way to target those people and go after them, but people who already know you, right? So it's like now one of the things is like I'll put out content, then people will come to my website, then I can identify them as a website visitor and I can send them a message if they're inside the ideal customer profile I have. And so we're going to see a lot more of that. And Outbound is really a way to be able to bring that to people who are not highly technical in the go-to-market space. Because if you're highly technical, you can put together like 5, 10, 15 different tools who can do a lot of these things. But we're really realizing that like there's value in simplifying the process. And everyone's looking for more customers, right? So yeah, long-winded answer there, Brendan.
No, beautiful. Appreciate it. Very good. Very helpful as always. As I said, without your videos, I wouldn't be here. So you put it out into the world and it's coming back. I'm glad everything's going your way. Can't wait to see what happens with Outbound.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And let me just shout out my YouTube channel here.
Do it, please. It's great
Shouting
content.
out my own So it's just youtube.com/ and I don't know if there's a channel I can put these links in. Also connect with me on LinkedIn. Like I'm always happy and down to hear from people. Our website's wearenocode.com. Yeah. And I will tell you the power is in you, my friends, because I really do believe that anyone these days is able to execute on their ideas. But the difficult thing is to overcome your own boundaries. And that oftentimes, I don't like to be the mindset guy, but oftentimes we start believing stories of ourselves like I'm not technical or, and I'm so glad all of you are here because you are part of the people who don't believe that because believe and have seen firsthand yourself building with Lovable. And that, my friends, is a mental unlock that then shows you like, oh, maybe some of my other assumptions are also incorrect. And you can start crafting and becoming the person that you really want to be. And I do believe that we all have capability to learn many things. Yes, we were all dealt different cards and we're naturally good at certain things. But one thing that I've learned is I've been able to learn things that I never thought would be ever accessible to me, again. And I was never interested in tech. So you know, definitely do your own personal work as well. Like work on your own self because that I think reflects in your business as well. Your own limitations, self-belief things, maybe, maybe traumas for some of you. Sorry about that. It happens to all of us. Those things are things that actually end up holding you back in your work life as well. And in your entrepreneurship journey, those will always be challenged. It's very difficult to separate you personally from what you do in entrepreneurship because you take everything kind of personally. Your startup is your baby, and if it fails you feel like you're a failure, but I'm here to tell you that's BS, and you should separate those things. You have value no matter what, my friends, and if you let go of that, man, it becomes a game, an amazing game that we can play in the era where AI is unleashing for all of us. So take advantage of it, please, because I really wish all of these tools were around. When I started my journey 15 years ago, it would have been a lot easier.
Awesome! Wow, thank you so much. So motivational. That's your next pivot right there. You're gonna be a motivational speaker.
There you go, man. I've figured it out.
All right. Thank you, Christian. Thank you for coming along. Thanks everyone for being here. It's been fantastic. Keep building. Christian mentioned that he didn't get to touch on marketing. That's next week. Exciting things happening. Thanks again. Enjoy your day,
Let's
everyone.
go.
Let's go.
Take care, everyone.